Welcome to Who Knew. We are fans of the current series of Doctor Who, and here we discuss our likes, dislikes, and insights into the modern regeneration of the show. Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher, or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/WhoKnewPodcast. All our episodes are on WhoKnewPodcast.com. You can leave comments there, or email us at WhoKnewPodcast@gmail.com. We also have an Instagram and Twitter account. Tweet at us at WhoKnewPodcast, and find us on Facebook. Today's episode is episode 9 of season 5, Cold Blood. Can the Doctor broker peace between the two indigenous races of Earth? This episode is written by Chris Chibnall, directed by Ashley Way. It originally aired on the 29th of May 2010 and was watched by 5.7 million viewers. Hi, this is Eugene. Let's introduce ourselves.
This is Josh.
Hello, this is Frank.
As Kelsey.
Hello, this is Auburn.
This is Brian.
The Doctor and Nazarene search the underground city and are captured. The Silurian Doctor, Malachi, is about to cut into Amy for some invasive probing, but is called away to examine the Doctor and Nazarene instead. Before he leaves, Amy steals the locking controls from his pocket and frees herself and Mo. As they look for an escape to the surface, they find Mo's son Elliot. He is trapped in a glass chamber with medical vines attached to his body. Amy says he is fine for now, and they need to find the Doctor to get him out. So this episode, like we mentioned in last episode, is different in that it has a voiceover. And I don't think we've had another voiceover since the end of time, the last episodes of David Tennant.
I think you're right.
It's strange that it's also an historic voiceover, historic narration, saying this is the past.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of that whole Amy and Rory waving at themselves again.
Yep.
I mean, this is the past.
And the director on the DVD commentary said that the voiceover was added by Stephen Moffat.
That was his voice?
He said he wanted it to be added.
It's I thought it was Malachi.
It's
No, it's
not
Eldane.
Eldane, the leader.
I thought Kelsey would really be happy with this opening because it did not have a 5-minute, summation and quick fix of what happened in the previous episode.
Yes.
This actually continued the story completely.
true.
It didn't fix anything in the first few minutes.
Yeah, I don't even.
Well, I guess it did kind of the whole Amy part of
Yes.
she's about to be dissected.
The Amy part is completely fixed.
Yeah.
But maybe the fact that it doesn't involve the Doctor just quickly solving something, because I didn't even notice it myself when I was watching.
But it does definitely solve it super quick.
It's different than a regular cliffhanger. It was just a cut. It would flow
Right.
completely. It wasn't the main, oh no, what's going to happen to our heroes? It was, we got saved, just a quick little, okay, yeah, over here we have to go do this now. You can't do that. Which they do all the time. So it didn't feel like a regular cliffhanger.
Well, please remind me, how did the last episode end?
The Doctor is coming up towards Amy to start dissecting her.
Okay.
Rory, Tony, and Ambrose go to see Leia, who's toys with their minds saying one of them will kill her. Tony leaves, sees the venom spreading. Amy wakes up and is now tied, blah, blah, blah.
And the Doctor and Nazarene just see the army. And it's like, oh, there's a whole civilization, not the army. The civilization, the city's there. So there's nobody really in danger. It's just giving us a lot more information.
Amy definitely did address that Elliot was in suspended animation and all that stuff, but it was there was no maternal empathy at all for Mo and his child. I mean, I get it, and she's used to being sort of used to being in spaceships now. It's like, yeah, this stuff happens all the time, we'll be fine. But I felt that was slightly glossed over, but whatever.
She's getting a lot more confident in all this and taking control.
But even him going along with her actually was more, okay, that she must be right. What else am I going to do? And what are you going to do? You can't digress for a whole big moment to have. And it also shows the difference between him and his wife, not Felicia Day, how she couldn't let go and try to work the situation, whereas he understands that there's things to do.
Mm-hmm. I liked how the previously on, I think, ended with the Doctor saying nobody dies today.
Yeah.
Still kind of that.
Just keeping it in our mind.
Yeah, and we know it's foreshadowing. And then Amy asks the dad Mo to trust her, and that's a very I feel like this season, especially with the Doctor has been telling everybody, trust me, and I will fix the situation. Now Amy's kind of taking that same language without the Doctor there with her. Thought that was cool. How'd you all like the pickpocketing?
It was kind of like what very easy.
But it showed Amy.
It shows her being formidable.
But also, she picked the lock in the other episode.
Oh, you're right.
London.
Yeah, you're right.
Ah.
You're right. It made sense. Made enough sense.
It all happened too fast. I didn't.
Sleight of hand.
Yeah. I mean, like, this is kind of embarrassing, but I thought that he was putting that thing on Amy and that was disinfecting her.
Now, having watched this again, I personally like to think that Malachi let her pickpocket him.
Especially after what happened last episode, when you know that he has dissected a living being. Mo has the scar down his chest when he got dissected. It's like, he doesn't want them to go.
But now maybe he's feeling remorseful for what he did. Anyway,
is
that's
this
just
how
something-
you reconcile the two?
Yeah, because
Malachi. Malachi's the one from our cliffhanger in the part one, and the one.
No, it would be the opposite of what you
He
said.
saw how much it hurt Mo, and he doesn't want to do that to someone else, so he feigned not paying attention
Yes.
to help her escape.
And then the guy who did the dissection on Mo would be a different doctor, in my mind.
Alrighty.
Ambrose confronts Rory and wants to know why he and the doctor are here. Rory promises her that they will get her family back. Tony goes to see Alea, who is surprised he is still alive. He begs for her to help him in exchange for her release. She refuses. She would much rather see him die than herself set free. Later, Ambrose notices the poison spreading on her father. I thought that was another weird thing. It was like, why aren't you dead yet? And it's like, well, why isn't he? If she thinks he should be dead, why isn't he dead yet? Where's some follow-up on that?
I actually thought because he was getting medical treatment that she didn't even occur to her that these apes would have.
What medical treatment?
From Rory.
Rory.
Oh,
from
at this
the
point,
medicine
Rory
cabinet.
hasn't helped.
He hasn't.
Okay, from the medicine cabinet. Just, anti-inflammatories, Benadryl, whatever it may be.
They've evolved since
Also, too,
they knew
we
them.
later find out it wasn't actually poison. That if she's saying you should be dead by now, then why the hell isn't he dead? He's not some special person. I thought it was maybe another very unconscious, subconscious way of saying they're more evolved than you think.
Yeah, I thought it was that too, but I kind of wish that somebody had pointed it out.
Yeah, someone said there's a lot of good ideas in both these episodes that they just don't bring out.
Later on, they say that, it's not meant to kill him.
Right.
So she knows that. She knows what she's doing. So
Yeah,
again,
then
this
why
just
did
shows
she say why?
because she's playing with their mind. She wants to start the war.
Oh! I like that.
I thought you were going to sing that song. Uh-oh.
And this is how you can see how she's manipulating them
Right.
not to do what the doctor wants them to do.
Right.
Not to live up to what the best are. Go to the lowest common denominator they feel like.
Right.
Get them all scared.
You
Get
should
them
be
all
dead,
aggressive.
scaring them more.
And this is why I see your point of the doctor being the bad guy, because she's a bad guy, and she's the one that we hearing talk, Alea.
Yeah.
When is the doctor a bad guy?
Dr.
Which doctor?
Malachi.
Malachi.
Oh, I thought you meant the doctor.
Well, earlier when the doctor said, when Frank was talking about the doctor, Malachi, but he didn't say Malachi, I immediately thought the doctor. So it's just
Sorry.
it's everything is going back and forth.
And then at the end of our first part, she's like, one of you is going to kill me, and I know who. So when Tony approaches her, you start to think, oh, is it Tony? Is Tony gonna kill
And she
her?
has no idea who's going to do it. She's
You don't
trying.
think so?
Not at that point. She's trying to get
Oh.
everybody to be the one.
So
to
in a
kill.
way, it's like she's trying to get them to kill her to start the war. I didn't pick up on that earlier. I like that.
Because I don't think more. She does not want to be used for peace.
Right.
She doesn't want to be traded back. That's the Klingon warrior mentality thing. It's like you don't want to be a pawn.
Because in that instance, a death would be better than returning failure.
Right. Thank you.
Restak and Malachi bring the doctor and Nazarene back to his lab and discover Amy and Mo have escaped. Malachi begins decontaminating the doctor, which causes him enormous pain. The doctor begs him to stop and says it hurts because he is not human. Malachi checks his equipment, sees the two hearts, and stops the decontamination. Restak, the warrior leader, wants more information about the doctor's invasion force. The doctor says they want to exchange Alea for the humans captured by the Silurians. Restak plans to send their corpses to the surface as a declaration of war. This bit about the doctor and the decontamination, removing the human part that's keeping him alive, reminded me of the Eighth Doctor being half human.
It did seem like that.
I didn't quite understand the logic behind what he was saying about that.
I didn't either, but I liked it.
I liked it.
I was like, oh, that's kind of
human
neat.
germs
That's
are
interesting.
keeping him alive.
Yeah, and
What?
then a tomato would help balance all that out.
The celery. 'Cause
Celery.
That was
Celery.
a throwback to the other doctor.
The fifth
Oh,
doctor.
Fifth doctor
Okay.
who
Right.
had celery as
A boutonniere.
but he also thought it was restorative.
Yes.
Kind of like chocolate if
Okay.
you go against a
Dementor.
thank you.
That's right. Yeah.
So what was he saying about the human germs keeping him alive?
That's what he said. The human germs are keeping me alive. Or something.
Okay.
If you decontaminate me, then you're removing something that's keeping me alive.
But they're removing everything that's not human.
Oh,
But they're trying to
oh,
strip
oh,
out any contaminants that will happen to them. And it's like these are basic
Oh.
ones that the humans can have. So it's taking all those decontaminants away that are not strictly
So
human.
they were stripping the Time
So
Lord
the-
out of him?
Yeah, so they're attacking Gallifreyan
Side?
genetics
Okay,
because they're not human.
identifying that. I gotcha. They should have a podcast that explains this stuff out there to make it more enjoyable for people who watch the episodes and don't quite get it.
But not for the classic one, just for the new Who.
Well, every
podcast.
now and then a classic one is. It's like a little,
Okay.
a little quick,
Once in a while.
quick listen.
I felt like it's been a few episodes since we had Matt Smith being in pain, so it was good to see that.
I did like him getting zapped in this chair thing more than him getting zapped by the door in Venice.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Moving on.
The door in Venice is more like.
Wow, that was really good, Matt Smith there, Josh.
Yeah, I know.
As we mentioned, we have Aaliyah. She's played by Neve McIntosh, and she also plays Restak.
which is cool because the features are similar, but she plays each sister differently. Like her voice is different
Yeah.
for each sister, which is neat.
And I only noticed for the first time watching it this time that she has a scar as well.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
The warrior one or
Restak.
the or
The one
a
down there,
Restak?
the one downstairs.
Okay.
well, Restak also has reddish scales.
Oh, I'm colorblind.
That's what I was gonna say. You probably didn't pick up on that,
Nope,
but
not at
that's
all.
what she's got that makes her different as well.
Amy and Mo find chambers similar to Elliot's containing dormant Silurians, placed on transport discs that lead to the surface. They've stumbled onto an entire waiting army. Taking some weapons, they continue to search for the Doctor.
I haven't watched the classic one in a long time, or even if I've seen it all the way through, I can't remember.
The third
But
Doctor one, or
the third Doctor
okay.
when he first meets the Silurians. So is something similar happened then?
Yeah, every time the Doctor has encountered the Silurians, he wants to broker peace, and it just doesn't happen.
But it's like since he's done it before, I got that. Okay, well I know how to get up to a certain spot. So it's like that's why it feels like he's shortcutting, going, no, well I know how to get these people up to the table at least, or something. And it's like this isn't working the way it's supposed to because it's a different tribe, it's a different
Right.
city of people who deal with things differently.
So this race, the Silurians, they were in Classic Who. Like okay. I wish there was like a disclaimer on the Who new on the rebooted Doctor Who episodes, because there's like sometimes they will always reference the Doctor's like, oh yes, I met this race before, and then we'll talk about the episode here, and we'll be like, so which episode in Classic Who? And you're like, oh no, that was just a line. Like
It's like in comic books when the little asterisk panel is there to tell you what issue to go back in.
Yeah,
Yes!
it's like
Oh,
a
that was
footnote by the
awesome.
editor, like, see issue 12.
So for our listeners, see season 3.
No, see the see the third Doctor in
Oh, third Doctor.
Doctor Who and the Silurians.
Okay. So
That's the one
third
with the
Doctor,
Silurians.
And the
And the Doctor.
Oh,
and the
okay.
series is called The Doctor and the Silurians.
The story.
The story arc.
The story.
The Doctor tells Nazarene that the Silurians went into hibernation because a planet was heading to Earth on a crash course. They went underground to wait for the Earth to recover, but the object went into orbit instead, becoming the moon. No catastrophe happened, and humans evolved. Restak and Malakay want to know about the other Silurians who told him this, but he admits the humans fought them and they died.
Okay, I didn't catch that when she was explaining it. Something about the moon, like I caught a piece of it, became the moon.
That's how it happened.
Yeah, I know, but
Literally.
it wasn't. I didn't realize that's what she was saying until just now.
Do you remember that episode in a later Doctor?
Oh well, I remember with the egg, yeah, but I don't remember.
But that's not related. That was
happening.
Just a joke. It was just they saw a planet coming that looked like it was going to crash into the Earth, and it didn't crash into the Earth. It became the moon instead.
And then that's when they hit underground.
Okay, so they're just really not
I mean,
basing anything else.
That's like millions of years, isn't it?
But that's not how
Earth
the
before
moon,
the moon?
was formed. Am I wrong?
It's a theory.
Kelsey, when they first saw the army, you mentioned the music cue there. You really liked it.
Yeah, I wish I knew.
When the doctor and Nazarene saw the army, it was like a 3-beat.
It was like a 3-note that repeats itself. Like, and it's used throughout this episode, not just
it builds.
it builds. It's like that 3-note, Eugene, bum, 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 and then there's like a long couple measure pause.
Yeah, it's like it's a cue that something sinister is going on. I think that's how they used it in this episode.
I like it because it lets me know something sinister is happening. Sometimes I like my music to spoon feed me.
When Mo and Amy are going through, I guess, the tunnels, and they see the 2 Silurians that were, I guess, in stasis, it reminded me of like Sleestacks
Yeah,
from Land of the
totally.
Lost.
Totally Sleestackian.
Yeah, and they said that they had to freeze frame those 2 actors because you can see them breathe, even though that they're told to stay still.
Yeah, I did find, even though the set was pretty remarkable and the outfits were really great, like it's high quality production, but because again this is new HD, it felt very. There was no distance between like the fantasy part of watching a show and then the reality. Like when the glass would rise, it felt very homespun. It felt kind of classic Doctor. Low rent. That's what I was trying to say. Low rent with the way.
So advanced, and the glass moves kind of like somebody pulling it.
Sorry.
Ambrose goes to Alea and threatens her with a stun gun in order to get the antidote to cure her father. Alea taunts her into using the gun, and Ambrose does, many times. Rory and Tony hear Alea's screams and run to the basement. Rory tries to save her, but Alea dies. Below, Restak takes Nazarene and the doctor to their courtroom for execution. Malachi argues that she doesn't have the authority. Amy and Mo show up, demanding they let the others go, but Restak grabs their weapons and prepares them all for execution.
I like how Alea brought them there, because earlier Malachi said that they had the same rank. They were equal.
Restak?
You're right. Actress, wrong one. I like how Restak brought them there, because earlier Malachi said that they were the same rank, so that was nice. And so bringing them here, she said, no, this is where it's now a war tribunal. I have the rank, and she can kick them out.
Oh,
So,
nice. I didn't
never
notice that.
I didn't get that at first. So why do you have to do this? So this is where we put our executions. It's like, so what? But to me, it's like, oh, she's doing that so she has the proper rank, and she has the power now. So you may not have picked up on that because I didn't at first, but I thought that was really cool way
did
of doing
catch
it.
that because it was a war situation, she's in charge. I didn't catch it was because of the room.
I really like the what's that called when you put something side by side?
Comparison?
Yeah. I really like the juxtaposition of what's happening above ground, what's happening below, and how the doctor left the people on above ground with specific commands of like, do not harm this captive. She's the bargaining chip. He gets below Earth, and now like the first thing the person in charge is like, we're gonna kill you, like. And the cutting back and forth and the pacing of everything.
I did feel it had, a little bit of a classic Who vibe going on here. And this happens a lot when you have a bunch of warriors with weapons and someone is distracted, and then our heroes grab the weapons out of the warriors' hands. And, these are trained warriors who are supposed to be scary, that they will take over the world that already is inhabited by billions of humans, but they can be easily get their weapons out of their hands by a couple of ragamuffins.
Well, they were in stasis, weren't they?
No, this is during the scene. It may not have actually happened yet. When there's like a tussle in the room, in this trial room.
But before
Yeah.
this,
No.
they were in stasis.
Right at the end, it says
Amy and Matt show up. Just
Amy and Mo show up, demanding that they let the others go, but Restak grabs their weapon and prepares them all for execution. Okay, there was that. But then the way they get out of the execution, which we'll talk about in a minute, is a whole, like, Zoink, Scoob, grab the gun!
I mean, we didn't see them in stasis, Auburn, but I think story-wise, we're to believe that everyone was still in stasis until the drill got close enough.
Yeah, but that's
to
not
the
what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
bubbles.
I'm talking about when there's a tussle in the room in just a little bit.
I know, and I think
Oh.
Auburn's point was like, we'll give them cut them some slack,
Oh, I
Josh.
didn't
They
hear
were
you
just
say
in
it.
stasis for like a million
Oh,
years.
no, that was my point.
That wasn't what you
Mo
meant?
and Amy got their weapons from the Silurians that were in stasis.
Oh,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's what you were saying.
Yeah.
Oh. my
And I
God.
liked that Restak was able to disarm me
Yeah.
really easily.
Yeah, that's
It's like,
fine.
please, we do this when I was a kid.
But then
Ooh.
this is the exact opposite happens in a few minutes.
What's really cool about having the warrior cast of the Silurians being all women, as far as I think we've seen, is that, you know, between Aaliyah and Ambrose and Amy and Restak, there's a lot of, and Nazreen, there's a lot of women communicating to other women in a scene. That is something that you don't often have. Like, I think it's getting better, but, you know, I just noticed that there was a lot of scenes with just two women in them talking to each other, being on different sides of
Yeah.
the story, which I think was really cool in this episode.
I noticed it too. I don't think it's something. I mean, something we're seeing more and more in movies today, and it's something that happens quite often today. But considering this was what 2010, I did think the same thing. Like, oh, this is kind of the start of it. But it's all women are the warring class, you know, and it makes me think of lions. Women do the hunting.
Well,
Women.
nature, because all the bees in the hive are all female.
Worker.
The ones that are the worker bees are
Oh.
the female. They're the ones that
Is that right?
Oh, it's-
I thought the worker bees were male and the queen was female.
once the males do the job of impregnating the queen, they kick the males out.
But I think more than that, for story-wise, it's just women have gotten good roles in this episode. I mean, they're the ones protagonists. They're the ones who are making everything happen.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not written as a woman is making this happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like, these are just good characters
Right.
that they're portraying well.
And that being said, I didn't feel like the men characters were downplayed at all.
No.
No, not at all.
Because that tends to happen too when you have an agenda for one sex or race or whatever. It kind of dumbs down the others. I thought it was pretty even.
Yeah, I felt that the conflict between Restak and Eldane was like well thought out.
Yeah.
Because they're three-dimensional characters, and it's not just one character against another. It's like a character's ideals against another character's ideals.
Kind of like Doctor Who in this episode is a little ahead of its time.
Maybe 10 years ahead of its time.
It's wibbly wobbly.
Well, it was 2020, so we'll see what next year
That's
brings.
right. Oh, so maybe they were right on spot,
Yeah.
right on point. There you go.
Talk about foreshadowing of reality.
Yeah.
So the lizard people are coming next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Leia is really taunting her. And she went down there thinking that it's a stun gun or whatever the electronic, I don't
Yeah.
know what that actually
Right.
was.
Taser.
Was
yeah.
it a taser? Because it just looked different, more as a gun rather than the one that's...
Yeah,
That's
they
what
had-
they look like,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like more electronic with yellow on it to signify it's like
Not a
electric.
gun. Yeah.
I just remember the other different types of
Yeah,
tasers.
that's not what they use now.
But
So what is it? What is she holding?
The taser.
A taser.
A
Taser.
taser. Oh, okay.
it's like she didn't realize how... I don't think she planned to kill her. You know, she didn't
No.
realize how
No,
much
she didn't.
voltage that would take.
Well, plus
for this
she's not
race.
human. For all you know, that wouldn't have killed a human.
She's not upset about it, except how is it going to endanger her son?
she's not sad that she killed someone. She's sad that now she can't get her son back.
And she did say, how could she not say? I would have said if I were being distressed like this. She was talking to her dad, Tony.
Stupid humans.
Yeah, I definitely think Ambrose, like, it's those little decisions, like the decision to bring the gun, the decision to even talk to Alea is like, you know, you don't intentionally think you're going to kill them, but you're setting up all the pieces in place that's how they are going to fall, is one of those things that, you know, she ended up killing her intentionally or not. But I think in her head, she was not going down there with that intention, but she kept making those subconscious decisions along the way that led to it. And then I thought it was funny at this point, Rory comes in and he's trying to save Alea and tells her, you're not going to die. And then I think the very next shot is like her dying. which
Yeah, I
is
feel
just-
so bad for Rory in this scene.
Yeah.
Because just the look on his face, the doctor's not gonna like this. Or just like we just
he
did the
understands that-
exact opposite of what the doctor
Right.
told us not to do, which was keep this captive alive. So for him, it's like, you're not gonna die. Like I'll save you. I have to save you. And then nope. And it's just like, that.
I like how like there is a lot of loss in this episode, and it like this one stayed permanent. Where I even watching it this past time, like I kept expecting, well, are they gonna like save her? Is there some weird Silurian thing?
Is it
Maybe
like
she's just
hibernation?
dormant.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was permanent, and like they had to deal with, we made this mistake and there's no going back, where in Doctor Who there is often a way to go back and fix things.
Well, this again reminds me of classic Who, because when people die, they stay dead. Where like we just did Resurrection of the Daleks, that bystander in the beginning is dead, and he stays dead. Then there's a high body count. I don't know. I just feel that there's kind of like apologetic storytelling, or ways that it's almost Deus Ex Machina, where everything gets reset at the end. Where in Doctor Who they're known for keeping death. It's not like a comic book death.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Restak establishes a video communication to a computer in the church basement and demands the release of Alea. Rory sees the Doctor and Amy tied up along with Mo and Nazreen. Just as the firing squad prepares to shoot Amy, the communication is shut down. Molokai has returned with Eldane, their leader, who halts the execution and dismisses Restak from the room. The Doctor reestablishes communication and tells Rory to bring Alea below, using the transport tubes, and quickly cuts the transmission. He says to Eldane that Nazreen and Amy are humans who can negotiate on behalf of their race, and Eldane can speak for his. They begin talks on how to share the planet. The Doctor and Mo leave to get his son.
What I like about this is Nazreen has proved herself to be someone who is worthy of this debate. You know, by now, like
Yeah, she earned her place at the table.
Yeah. I mean, Amy, whatever. But I think that it felt okay to me, because I felt like she was a formidable representative of the human race.
And her reactions again are great. With
Right.
Doctor saying, "You can do this," and her looking at him, and then she realizes, "Okay, I'm
Right.
doing this," and just her face says so
Yeah.
much. It's so great. I just love her reactions.
And the thing too is that like the arguments she has, even though they're pretty obvious, I just took it all as she has a scientific knowledge, and knowledge just is knowledgeable enough that she can have any sort of debate that this politician, this leader, can have with her, and give him if he's being reasonable, she'll have an answer.
I also like the speech here with the Doctor saying, "This is not a fixed point in time." So what we do now changes the future. You know, showing a little foreshadowing of what's coming up.
So that means like the Doctor doesn't know the outcome. He hasn't seen a world where the Silurians and the humans like live together.
No, he
on
may
Earth.
have, but this isn't a fixed point.
And that's what he seems really excited about.
Or it could not even happen.
I mean, what I like about it is that every time the Doctor has said a fixed point in time, it's been this thing that is unchangeable. And I like that now this is a point that he doesn't know about specifically. Like, he doesn't know the outcome of this particular peace talk.
How is he aware of that? Because he can
Yeah,
just
he's
sense
Time
it.
Lord.
because
Or
he's a
maybe
Time Lord?
because he doesn't know it.
He's
also.
He's a Time Lord, so they know.
He knows fixed points, he
Right.
knows non-fixed
That's just-
points. And he's got so much hope.
Yeah.
He's just saying, do good, be extraordinary. I love it. I think it's
Yeah,
great.
and I like that. It's where the other speech in the previous episode doesn't hit me the way I think it's intended to. This one hits me where he's definitely telling people to do the best you can do in this moment. And I think it works here because it's the negotiating table. The peace talks. It's not we're here to do a mission. It's here we're representatives of our race to make a compromise or a solution for both to exist and coexist. And I feel like that is a much better message in this day and age than us versus them, demonizing the other, and us first, not anyone else. So I do like that. Especially for a message for kids. I think that's very helpful for them in becoming adults.
Yeah.
And here we get to see Eldane, who is played by Stephen Moore, and he is the voice of Marvin in the older Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy miniseries from BBC. He also played in one episode Frankie the Mouse.
And so Eldane is like the leader of this race.
Like the political leader. Where like Restak's like the general, and I guess Molokai is
The science.
the science leader, yeah. The world building is really cool, like that, you know, you don't have this one villain, you have an actual society with different factions within it that are also trying to keep their own power, or gain more power. So that's cool that the conflict's not just between the humans and the Silurians, but
It's not
with
like
internal.
the Daleks or the Cybermen
Right,
who just
right.
all have the same agenda. I like that picture that they painted of Malachi just for the past, what was it, like 300, what did he say? He's like been researching the human race for the past 300 years.
Yeah.
On
He
his
said for
own.
thousands of years his family has been doing it, but
Oh, okay.
his
Yeah.
family had passed on, and now he's just been doing it for the past 300 years.
That'll come back later.
Oh, that's said
Yeah.
later. Oh, I thought he had already said it. But yeah, Aubrey, I remember you really liked the courtroom, like the set design.
Oh yeah,
Looked really neat.
Like it, and because I watched the first episode again after watching this episode, I almost felt like the church in the town was also like had similar dimensions to the courtroom, and felt kind of also like the Harry Potter courtroom. I don't know if there's similar like sets that are just
Yeah, maybe.
It also could be that's the standard layout of or
Yeah, it's a-
judicial
it's a large
areas
hall, yeah.
in Great Britain.
yeah, that's true.
So it's something that people watching in the UK would automatically go, that's
Right.
a hearing.
That's a courtroom,
Yeah.
or yeah.
But I like what you were saying about the characters. Like, this isn't binary thinking race. There's this society is three-dimensional as opposed to a character being three-dimensional. Now the Silurians are three-dimensional in that you have conflicting agendas.
I will also say, I think this was where like the television communication happened a little bit, and the doctor trying to stop Ambrose from like making it worse for everybody. I just thought that was so funny.
Where he
like,
was like, let's let Rory handle this,
yeah,
please.
yeah.
Rory's
But Ambrose did well in other settings. You know, she's like, we can't let her know about Alea's being dead. So she's like, no. And she's standing up for what she wants. She's like, no, you release them, and then we will bring this down. Trying to
Oh, I
get the power back.
Yeah, I definitely think Rory would have had a hard time hiding the fact that Alea was dead. Whereas,
Right.
like, Ambrose, you're right, she needed to come in and save the situation. It was just kind of like the doctor's not getting. I mean, like, the doctor thinks Alea's dead. So, like, what's the problem, Ambrose? Like, just show us Alea. But yeah, I do agree with you, Frank. Like, yeah, no, Ambrose needed to step in at that point. Otherwise, the doctor would
Because I
have
don't
been
know what
dead.
Rory would have
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to do. But
Yeah.
the doctor trusts him enough that he's smart enough to say something. I don't know how that
I'm a
would play out, but
gondola
I'm thinking
driver.
most other companions, if they acted like Ambrose, things would work out well. You know, Rose, even saying at the beginning of the Tenants episode of the Christmas Invasion, she's trying to talk to them all. My brain.
Sycorax.
The Sycorax, you know, she's spouting all this stuff, but she's trying, you know, and I think that's the same thing that Ambrose is doing. She's trying to take back the power and trying to go, no, this is how we're going to do it.
The doctor being the voice of reason in the moment just really like
It was like
it
it
was
was
it
played
was.
for
Yeah,
comedy,
yeah.
and I think
It was a little, no, go, please pass the
It
phone
just-
over to Rory, thank you. Okay.
It also just didn't help that then right after that moment when Eldane comes in, all right, women,
I
like
felt
you
that
were,
too.
you're like, okay, ladies, like the
felt-
man is here now
yeah.
and he's gonna make everything better.
I think it worked under the perspective of, okay, warlord, the logician is now coming in to think clearly and not just one-sided. But because of the gender situation, it did come across quite condescendingly.
Ambrose convinces Tony to prepare the drill as they take Alea's body down to the Silurian city. The drill is on a timer to activate, but they will be able to turn it off when they return safely with everyone. If not, the underground civilization will be destroyed. Malachi tells the doctor that he has been awake alone for 300 years, testing human children to see how they will live and grow. He has slowed down their aging, but has not harmed any of the subjects. He releases Elliot and leaves to find out why some other chambers seem to be malfunctioning. He finds Restak preparing for war by awakening soldiers from hibernation. Restak kills him. I found that very jarring.
That she kills him, or that he's been kidnapping children for 300 years?
That he was killed just like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, I like this character.
Even though he's been kidnapping children.
This is like a problem between the first episode relying so heavily on the mysteriousness
Yeah.
and the
Yeah,
horror.
because once you start explaining,
Yeah.
it doesn't add up.
Yeah, Mullica is not a good person.
Right.
Like dissecting people that can talk while they're awake. Like I don't think. Oh, I don't hurt the children is not a.
And I don't even understand what
But the thing is, he does hurt the children.
Yes.
From what he's saying about, the disinfectant's
But he
not going to
says it,
hurt.
but has not harmed any of the subject.
Yes.
Yeah, he says
But he
that.
also said the disinfectant's not going to hurt, and everybody who has been disinfected,
It's screaming in
said
pain.
that it's hurting.
My problem is it just comes
Yeah, I
out
think-
of
I think-
nowhere and goes nowhere. I mean, literally, it's he could be saying, "Oh, and by the way, I have 17,000 wives and I eat half of them." Now let's open up the door and let the child out. I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with anything.
Like,
For the last 300 years, he was alone,
Right.
not another doctor
except,
down there.
except for my potted plant, Ralph. Say hi, Ralph.
Audrey.
Audrey, right. Sorry.
Feed me.
But he wasn't. It seemed like he and his family were also there longer than that. He
Yeah.
didn't just awake 300 years ago. He was with.
and
his
then again,
family.
that's sort of the flaw in this highly advanced society, not picking up on the fact that this isn't a good thing. Little things like that.
It's almost like two
I
different
just
people
wanted
wrote it.
it to mean something. It doesn't mean anything. It's like, oh, let me tell you about the children that I've been torturing. Why? It just, I mean, was that their attempt to be like, this is the reason why we didn't kill Elliot? This is why Elliot's still stuck in. It's
Yeah.
like that's their right a line.
That's the only reason.
Right a line or two.
I think like the problem is that the script and the show wants him to be a sympathetic character, like wants us to be on Mullica's side. But when you sit for a minute and say, wait a minute, no, he's not nice. Like that's the problem. Is the show's trying to make us like him, and it's like,
Yeah.
no, you don't get that.
There are two things going.
Yeah.
That's just where I feel it's not
Yeah.
well written.
I think
That's what I
think
thought. It seemed like two different people.
yeah.
The first group wrote the
Yeah.
evil beings under the ground
Yeah.
that are threatening and dissecting people, and the other group wrote, no, but this guy's learning and seeing that we're not animals, that we are sentient beings, and
Yeah.
kumbaya.
And I'm coming from it, kind of logicking my way out of it, because I like the actor and the way he portrays this character. And the way I thought of it is that he was experimenting on humans, but then when they started to change and evolve, his, lack of a better term, his conscience got a bit better of him. Now these people are starting to talk, they're starting to sort of resist. And so that's why when he dies, I don't want him to die. Figuring out why. For me as a writer, I would want him to grow in such a way that he would help fight Restak and be on the doctor's side because of the guilt that he felt about doing these experiments. And I'm just saying what I thought when I rewatched this episode.
Yeah.
It's not there. It's just
No,
what I thought.
and I think again I think that's the point of the way they wrote it.
Yeah.
But they also didn't. It's inconsistent writing in this character, and I think this is where the type of writing of these two episodes shows its raw flaw. Is it's just not thought out, because just with a couple sentences he could have said something along the way, as I was doing this I realized my folly.
Yeah, totally. And I would have been okay if this had been a different doctor, and then the other doctor in the second episode comes in and what are you doing?
Right.
At the talks, Amy suggests locations that are uninhabited by humans, but Nazreen worries about when their population grows. Eldane interrupts and offers advanced technology, new sources of energy and medicine in exchange for those unpopulated areas. Together, they can achieve greatness for all. Rory, Tony, and Ambrose arrive with Elia's body. Ambrose confesses she killed her. Restak and the newly awakened warriors arrive and she sees her dead sister. The doctor pleads with them to consider all the lives at stake, but Restak wants vengeance. Ambrose tells them that the drill will start in 15 minutes unless they are allowed to leave. Restak and her warriors attack, but the doctor shorts out their weapons with his sonic. The humans in Eldane run and barricade themselves in a medical facility. You mean the entire time he could have wiped out their weapons?
But the doctor uses the sonic like in Classic, where it's vertical, kind of like the way the 10th Doctor used it in the end of season 3 with
Yes, that's not a weapon.
Yeah, so they consciously made the choice not to point it like a weapon.
except for one scene, which I don't know if it was a stand-in or stunt double for the Doctor, who's then pointing it at them. And then it cuts back when you can see his face on the other angle. He's holding it up. And it cuts back to see the Silurians. It's like, oops, that one little thing, because naturally, in this incarnation, you would hold it as a weapon. That's what the 10th did, and that's what Matt does at times. But I do see it that he held it up to be a device rather than a weapon. The Doctor just seems to think highly of humans and not highly of Silurians, because he's berating and all upset of like, you could have been better, you could have done better than this to Ambrose. But then, Restak, and it's like, oh, well, that's just the way they are. It's like, wait a minute, can't they be better? You have Aldane, who's like, no, we can try and make this happen. But he's like, he's not fighting them at all. He's only, berating the humans.
The fact that the Doctor is harder on the Silurians is weird to me as well, because since the third Doctor, he's been trying to achieve peace with this race. Wouldn't he want to show a little bit more compassion toward them? But then looking at the big picture, I'm like, you should be equally forgiving on both sides. Just because
you're trying to negotiate something.
Absolutely. Because you're the third party in this. The Earth is the home for both of these species. You can't show partiality to one.
Right.
After the timer starts, Amy reprises her role of keeping the countdown going from, was it Flesh and Stone, where she was doing the countdown? And also watching these two back to back, it was like that same device was used for our 6 minutes in the first episode of this arc. So watching them so close together felt a little like, oh, another ticking clock, but this time at the end, it was just a little like, I noticed it and felt maybe could have found a different way to have that same tension. Yeah. I mean, it's easy. It's a good way to like amp up the tension, but we already did it.
But the drill was mutual annihilation type of thing. If you're not going to set us free, all of us are going to die.
And it's, I mean, as far as using that for a device, it bookends it.
Yeah.
But you're right. At the same, that's the problem with these two episodes. It's as interesting as some things about it are, it's a little too simple in its storytelling. This feels better because it is at least the climax, whereas the other one was like, okay, we have to do some stuff and they're going to be here any minute.
And then
and then whatever. Don't get me started on that again.
Tony continues to weaken and is mutated from the poison. The Doctor asks Eldane if he can run the decontamination process to help. As the warriors try to break in, the Doctor tells Nazreen he is going to create an energy pulse that will destroy the drill. It will also collapse the tunnels, so they need to be on the surface before that happens. Eldane says he can flood the city with a gas that will force the warriors back into their sleep chambers, allowing the humans to reach the TARDIS.
Yep.
That happened.
That happened.
Yeah.
I kind of like that he went and talked to Nazreen. So it's okay we destroy your life's work, because that's the only way we can do this. Her just, okay, I guess gotta go with that.
One problem I have with like ticking clock scenarios is when they take too long to say goodbye to each other.
Yes.
And this was one where like,
It almost was like it took 6 minutes.
yeah, exactly. But like, yes, the clock is ticking. Say goodbye quickly and then go. You don't have to like have your life story rehashed in this moment. It's time to go.
Yeah.
But I know that's also the point, is because then it makes me tense knowing that time is ticking and they're wasting it by talking.
Yeah. I like the idea of the decontamination, taking everything that's not human out. And that the Doctor seemed to say, no, you're mutating. I want to know mutating into what? It's not going to be one of them, but it's mutating something else. That then shows back to Alea going, did she know that he's not going to die? Because in the first episode, when you're watching it, she is wondering, why aren't you dead yet? And then that gets us going, well, why isn't he dead yet? But now you're like, oh, that's not what she was doing. That was part of her whole gameplay.
Yeah, and I think that's
Yeah,
when
it was
when Ambrose was shooting her or hitting her with the taser, she kept coming at her. She like basically was trying to get her to kill her to start this war.
Have you done any other research or know off the top of your head later with the Silurians, because we do see more of their race, do we ever find an answer to what happens with their sting? No, I didn't think so.
No. And that's another thing that we were talking about. There's things that are set up, but they don't ultimately have any satisfying payoff or any payoff at all.
Over and over and over again.
Yeah, they could have said, instead of wanting to destroy the human race up top, they could have said, we're going to mutate them into us.
Yeah, because that tongue sting is new to the Silurian race. That
But
was
they're a purity race. feeling. That's what I got from
Yeah, I know.
the two going, no, they don't like them at all. They don't want anything. It's the whole Dalek thing, you know?
The vermin. Apes are, like, the apes on the surface are vermin. What do? You exterminate
Them, yeah.
The doctor sets the sleep chambers for another 1,000 years and tells everyone present to get humans ready to share the planet. There isn't enough time to cure Tony before the tunnels collapse, so he decides to stay behind. Eldane begins the countdown for the gas release, and the warriors return to their chambers, clearing a path to the transport tubes. Nazarene admits her love for Tony and decides to stay. They will cure him and hibernate with the Silurians.
I think at one point there's some more lighting. There's some green lighting instead of a red lighting to indicate danger. There's green in this, and so earlier it was yellow to indicate we're in a different world, and then now there's a green for emergency. So I thought that was a nice choice to say that we sort of have the same things, but just different colors because this is a different species.
Right.
Well, I thought it was interesting. It says, okay, everybody follow Nazarene. And it's like, everyone's stating, well, she's not moving.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, everyone go. And that's when afterwards, she says, I'm staying. Which, don't really blame her. But it is, she goes, this is where my whole life is coming down here. This is, I want to stay. It's just, you're going to be asleep for 1,000 years. Nobody's going to be there.
And she has a relationship with Tony,
We'll see how that goes.
They kiss at some point?
They kissed earlier. They just kind of acknowledged their attraction for each other.
I think it's implied that they're a thing, or that now they can.
They will be.
Have they have each
feelings,
other to be
yeah.
with while they're down there.
Yeah.
But it's new.
Yeah.
It only happened in this episode. It's not like they've been together for months or weeks. So it's like,
But he does say,
okay, we'll see.
He does say, oh, come on, you're not surprised.
And later on, they go, well, she's going to give them hell when they wake up. So they know that it's not all just flowers and rainbows.
But what a world. I mean, they'll have a whole new world to explore together.
And I think it's good that they have a human on their side already. So when they
Right.
go
So they'll
back,
have someone to argue their case.
Or a hostage.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The group runs to the TARDIS, but Amy, Rory, and the Doctor see the crack from Amy's bedroom wall. The Doctor reaches inside the crack and pulls out a burnt piece of wood. Restak crawls into the cavern, dying from the gas. She shoots at the Doctor, but Rory jumps in the way to save him and dies in Amy's arms.
Again.
Energy from the crack reaches out toward his body. The Doctor pulls Amy into the TARDIS, where they watch the energy surround Rory. She must not forget him. She keeps trying to keep him in her memory. The Doctor tells her she must remember. Then the TARDIS abruptly lands on the surface, knocking them to the floor, and Amy no longer remembers Rory. They say goodbye to Mo, Ambrose, and Elliot. The Doctor examines the scorched piece of wood he pulled from the crack and realizes that it is part of the TARDIS.
So the doctor gets Rory killed.
Yeah.
Rory gets Rory killed. That was just
No, the doctor
sacrifice.
gets Rory killed because the doctor didn't need to stop and examine the crack. Get in the TARDIS and leave.
And why are we overlooking the fact that he can put his hand in the crack and not be erased from time? Because there weren't timey-wimey tendrils after him or something?
He had a handkerchief.
yes, he's also a Time Lord.
He had a cloth over his hand.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
A time dampening cloth.
It was dipped in convenionium.
Right. I mean, I do like that he did use a handkerchief.
It was a perception fabric.
I like when they mix the mundane with crazy stuff. I mean, I get a kick out of that. But the whole thing about the closer you get to the crack, you disappear from existence, and he just goes right up to it.
Yeah, I hate all of this.
I think we just, like Whitney Houston always tells us, crack is whack.
Yeah. Like, I hated the crack showed up. I hated that the doctor put his hand in it. I hated that Rory died. And then I hated that Amy couldn't remember him. Because I was like, it's okay, she's a time traveler. And then
that was the other thing,
they
too.
made an excuse, but well, no, it's your story is changed. Your
Yeah.
story's changed. I'm just like,
It's revisionist backstory.
Yeah.
it's like, that's
I mean,
a bunch of BS.
now that being said, I totally agree with you, Kelsey. But that being said, it sets up for great stories to come that we know of. But in the moment, exactly.
I think my favorite BS line telling is they're running to the TARDIS. He opens up the TARDIS door and he tells the guest stars to go up to sick bay on the second level so that they are out of the scene so that it can just be Amy and the doctor having the scene. And the instant she forgets him and everything's like, normal, they come walking down the stairs going, it's bigger on the inside. It's just so badly made.
Yeah, it was a little sloppy.
And the whole thing about the revisionist backstory we were just talking about with Amy, she's a time traveler, so she won't forget from the previous episodes, and it reminds me of like, the angels can't move if you are looking at them, or if you just act like you are. You know, that whole thing.
I did not. I mean, again, this whole sequence, I think we agree that we don't like it, but the doctor leaving Rory's body, like, that's just, I mean, I understand that in this.
Well, it was getting touched by the light already.
Right. I understand in this particular story, that's the reason, but the whole thing, I mean, just felt like so cold and so like he knows this is going to happen to Rory and didn't pull him away quick enough. I don't know. I agree. It's just a hard.
It was cold-blooded.
Yeah, cold-blooded.
There's just a hesitation that Matt Smith had that is like,
Right.
he can't save Rory. This might, if I could figure out how to use it.
Right. And that's cool to think of that way, because like I said, the same reason I like Amy now, but I didn't when I was watching these episodes. But we're first-time viewers are living in these episodes, and it's not paying off for that. If I was more of a diehard when I was watching this season, I probably would have started tuning out.
And if this may be the only reason that they put them watching them from 10 years ago, when Rory said, but we were on the hill, I can't die here.
Right.
Yeah.
Just to give us a more of a heartache.
Oh, absolutely.
Just to rip the heart out more. That's the only reason to do it at the beginning.
And again, if they had focused on that moment of them waving, to have given them this false sense of security that they're going to live through this adventure, then that would have
A better payoff.
yeah, totally. Because I imagine the line in my head, Rory's on the ground dying, and he goes, but I saw myself waving to myself. I'm supposed to live through this. And then that would have been better. That would have like tugged at the heartstrings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Save Martha.
I think there's a lot of great stuff in these two episodes. It's just sloppily written in many ways.
Like Bad Wolf has ruined having just standalone episodes that you can just watch, and that's why I hate that the crack shows up. So yeah, I don't know. I'm really enjoying watching standalone episodes because then I don't have to binge it. Then I can like watch an episode and then like a month later check back in and watch the next episode, and I don't have to remember what happened in a previous episode. Whereas like here, having this crack in every single episode of this season, I think weakens the season.
I guess I just don't like the focus of it, because every episode until this point has been sort of a tagged on scene. Like you see the crack on the side of Starship UK.
Yeah, it's always at the end.
And then in Victory of the Daleks, the TARDIS, I think, materializes out, and then you see it. But what I don't like about this one is that it's integral to this story, like we just mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
Where, Rory dies in front of it. The Doctor pulls something out of it.
Yeah.
And I don't like it.
This also puts the story of Amy's memory is very important. Stressed at the end of this show. So that's something that's happened in previous episodes, and Amy's memory is very important.
And to that, when the Doctor says something about the key and then opens the door, lets Amy in, or before she walks into the TARDIS, she says, "You boys and your locksmithery." And I rewound it, and I was like, did she say "you boys"?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, is that because her memory is still sort of there?
Well, she does wave to herself, and she goes, "I thought I saw somebody." So
Yeah.
her memory has a little bit in there.
Because in Vampires of Venice, it's like Amy and my boys, or
Right.
something like that.
Yeah.
I did like how they faded to white on all her memories. So as they're erasing, she's remembering him, and it's like fading away to white. I kind of like that.
And a lot of those were from episodes we had previously seen, but there's the one where they're walking through like a forest and he almost trips. I think that's they shot that specifically for this episode. And then at the end, Eldane's voiceover again. It bookends this specific episode. The losses he suffered then, and the greater losses still to come. I'm like, why do you put in the crack? I get that. And then you put in this thing, and then you're like, you're just teasing the hell out of this thing.
So just for official count, I'm making this Rory's second death in my head.
I think that's right.
Because I know the first one was in a dream within a dream, but
Yeah.
it's still, I mean, for an audience member,
It wasn't
Rory
a real
died.
death, but it was a death. But
Yes.
I'd say this is one.
I'm saying 2. We'll fight later. The next time we might see Rory die.
Oh, the other thing was that the doctor eats grass instead of licking it, or sniffing it. So that was.
And they ask him, when did you get so gross? Are you
like-
always so gross?
It's like, this is a recent thing.
Yeah.
Tennant would lick things, and then Matt Smith.
But I thought it was a reference to the new Who
Yeah, that too.
rather than classic Who.
Like the original doctors weren't as visceral and
Oh, I took
disgusting.
it as eating is worse than licking, but yeah, I guess maybe so.
I'm like, this is a new development. 9 episodes in. All right. So, Cold Blood. Does this live up to the promises set up in the first episode, The Hungry Earth?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just as interesting and sloppily written as the first one. And it's interesting in a good way, sloppily written in a bad way. And I think things do pay off, but not to the extent we expected them to be. So sure.
I say yes, it does tell a complete story.
I wouldn't say it lives up to promises, but I think I definitely like the second episode, the second part better than the first part. So to me, I'm gonna say yes.
I'll agree. I think it does live up to the first episode. I wish these were all one episode that was maybe like 10% from the first episode. And I'm glad we got to see the Silurians. I know they'll keep coming back. And yeah, I'll say yes.
Yeah, it does. It's kind of annoying, but so was the first half, so it's fine.
Yeah, I will say that this does live up to the first half, and I don't know. It's hard to say yes because I don't like the tonal shifts between the 2 episodes. To me, they could be completely separate episodes, but they tell one story, which is very bizarre. So that wraps up Cold Blood. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time when the future becomes the present.
You've just listened to an episode of Who Knew?
Our wonderful theme music is by Michael Grady.
Find him on Facebook at The Universe Explodes.
All our episodes are engineered by Auburn.
You can find him at auburnbinkley.com.
You can also find this show in several places.
Follow us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcast.
Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher.
Or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/whoknewpodcast.
All our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com.
Visit our Facebook page.
Please leave comments, reviews, and click like to help support Who Knew Podcast.
To listen to our show on your Amazon Echo device, enable the AnyPod podcast skill. Ask AnyPod to play the Who Knew podcast.
This podcast is inspired by Doctor Who.
The longest running sci-fi show in history.
And especially the revival, spearheaded by Russell T. Davis,
Thanks to Russell,
Sydney Newman.
Verity Lambert.
Ron Grainer.
Delia Derbyshire.
And all those involved in the adventures of our favorite Time Lord.
your work continues to inspire and entertain.
But I mean, I bought Nazrine's choice.
And I do hope they go back to her. I would love to have Jodie Whittaker meet up with her, going, look me
that
up
would be
again.
fun.
Yeah.
It's like I want to still stop
Right.
off at that point. Because I like this actress and I like this character.
Because it is Chris Chibnall, so he could go back and revisit his story.
That would be good.
And Jodie Whittaker and the Silurians would be an interesting combination, too.
That should be the name of the episode, Jodie Whittaker and the Silurians.
Yeah.
Well, having the female doctor with a lot
Yeah.
of strong female characters that we have in
Yeah.
this episode.
Yeah.
So just
Yeah.
building off of that.
Chris, if you're listening, make it happen.